Well, because of my long-standing relationship with Habilitat, my meeting of the founder's wife, Vicky Marino, and reading both books of Vinnie Marino, I was very interested in the foundation of the program that they built, which at the time I began coming, I was professor of education, higher education at Binghamton University in Binghamton, New York, which is a center, one of the four centers of the entire SUNY system, SUNY. And I was teaching courses in addiction, teaching courses in counseling, social work, mental health, human behavior. And many of my students were going into medicine, the professions of various types. And I had seen a summary of Habilitat on a CBS News documentary, and came here in 1998 and called the facility and received permission to come and visit. So we arranged a program where I brought many classes of my students over about a 13 to 14 year time span so that they could learn about the treatment of different types of addictions. And the foundation that the Marinos built continues today throughout that whole time span. And the success rate continues to be very positive. And one of the reasons it's so positive is because it addresses the entire person, mentally, socially, personality-wise, history-wise, even to the point of preparing them educationally and ultimately for a career once they complete the program. My students often reported this was a life-changing experience for them because they watched the process of treatment, related to those young people, and realized and would say to me, I could be but one decision away from making a poor choice. Because the program is built on the concept that people make choices in their life, and every choice has a consequence. I believe that it is a cornerstone of change for any person, but especially for those who are under the influence of addictive substances, because throughout their experience, their choices continue to reinforce the use. And once that choice making can be altered, modified, people can start thinking differently, and they start acting differently and choosing differently. I can tell you that from a family perspective. My wife and I have a daughter who 12 years after we started coming here also chose to come here. So we watched her over a 2 to 3 year period of time in her journey. And her journey was coming in with a high need for change and experiencing some very, very challenging times about her behavior, about her mindset, and having that, both of those concepts of self changed. So the journey it's difficult. It is challenging. It is person changing. It's hard. They make mistakes. They're held accountable for those mistakes. They're set back in their program to start at different levels again. But it's all about teaching new ways of living. And the ultimate result is that our daughter now successfully graduated and has a very strong position as a licensed social worker here on the island and is a major contributor to a large healthcare organization. She comes back to Habilitat and helps some of the women on a frequent basis. So from start to finish, it's tough, but it's a very powerful outcome. When our daughter came here, she was a young woman that lived a very dependent life. She looked to others for approval. She always tried to please others with her actions and her behaviors. She was lacking the self-confidence that we knew was in her and that her self-worth. But she felt very, very beaten down. So that her overall transformation, metamorphosis, was about her becoming an independent woman. A woman who could be an independent professional. One who trusts her decisions today. One who doesn't look for others' approvals based upon her choices. She moves into the future trusting herself, valuing herself, loving others. But that balance is where it should be today. So her needs were met, not only from the treatment for alcoholism, but the personal treatment of self. Hers was alcoholism. And that has its own set of criteria. Every substance has its own impact. And it has its own impact on every individual. Every individual is different. Our daughter had to learn her own self-worth. And on that, she built her strengths as a woman. Not a what was, but what the future holds. And let me just say this, that part of my coming here over the years has been that when I am here, I become part of their treatment program. And I teach sessions, I run sessions, and I interact with them just as I do with my students in my classroom. So I try to reinforce the messages that they're hearing, but from another voice. But also from one that is very knowledgeable of the program. We've been here a long time. Very proud of it. We promote it back home. There are people here now from Binghamton, New York. The commonality of attention, regardless of the addiction that the person comes in with, that Habilitat addresses, are the mindsets of how powerful that addiction substance is and how it's influenced the thinking. So when Habilitat addresses that thinking. They address not only that pattern of thinking and living, but they also address what that has done to the person. And what that has done to the person is to lower the hope for the future. It attacks the very essence of the person, the personality, the core, that spiritual element of life, so that their worth has been really tarnished. And so that commonality of personal growth need, changing mindset, changing way of thinking, changing way of interacting with other people are addressed here at Habilitat so that they can become people of self-worth and worth to our community, to our society at large. If that makes sense to you. As I and my wife talk about our visits, both before and after, and we go home and we talk with friends and colleagues, it's always this focus. Once the real people emerge from that shell of who they were when they came in here under the influence of whatever substance it might have been, we meet beautiful people. Beautiful people that they just shine. They're new. It's like they're new babes. They look better, they feel better, they think better, they act better. They're solid citizens. And I know enough about other programs, and this is nothing negative about any other program, but I know that the success rate here is because of what they do with the person. Addiction is one thing, but let me say this to you. Until that person is healed, there's an internal warfare going on of that person trying to become who they want to be. And when that warfare is won, they win. My interest over my career has been the study, the interpretation, the understanding, and the designing of interventions for human behavior. So you look at the eyes and you see it in their eyes. You see it in the way they carry themselves. You see it in the way they hold themselves, in the way they communicate, in the way they just are presenting themselves as a worthwhile human being. I would say that another factor that I know is important, and that is that to change an addictive lifestyle, it is not a short-term process. It is a long-term approach. Time has to be an important element in that formula. And the longer the person is in an environment of change, the more likely they are to carry that forward into the future and stay away from the need for a substance in the future and live a productive life. Everyone has a purpose. And one of my focuses this visit is, let's talk about a purpose-filled life. And they're really connecting with that. Because many of them, through their vocational training here, there are 13 different fields that people can get prepared for. And when they graduate and there's a job waiting for them, that is another element of the program that is crucial. Because it's earning, it's productivity, it's back into the world, but from a new perspective of making their way on their own. One of the things I'm doing tonight is the Native American Talking Circle. And I do this on an annual basis when I come here, and it's a big event. And it gives these residents a chance to do some very introspective thinking. There's a ceremony that goes with it. Yeah, we've learned and we've met a lot of people here since we've been coming. And Mrs. Marino, Vicky, before she passed, let Jeff know that we had an open invitation anytime. And the current executive director, Jeff Nash, has perpetuated their foundation. That model that the Marinos built has lasted 47 years.